Imagine this: 80 men stand on a beach, facing an armada carrying an army of 150,000. It's not a movie scene. It's the year 1274, and these are the last samurai of Tsushima Island, staring down the wrath of the Mongol Empire. This isn't just a story of a hopeless last stand. It's the story of how 80 warriors turned their certain deaths into a weapon that would ultimately save their nation. This is the Battle of Tsushima, the opening act of the Mongol invasion of Japan, and it's one of the most incredible examples of psychological warfare in history. The stage was set by none other than Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan. Having conquered much of Asia, he set his sights on Japan. He sent envoys with a simple message: submit or be destroyed. Japan's answer was equally simple, and far more brutal. They beheaded the Mongol envoys and sent their heads back to the Khan. The message was clear: Japan would not bow. Kublai Khan was enraged. He assembled a massive fleet, some say carrying up to 150,000 soldiers, sailors, and support staff, with an initial landing force of around 20,000 elite Mongol, Chinese, and Korean warriors. Their first stop, the strategic island of Tsushima. Defending the island was a garrison of just 80 samurai, led by their governor, Sukakuni. Let's be clear about the odds here. This wasn't a blunder. It was a calculated, strategic sacrifice. Sukakuni wasn't fighting for victory. He was fighting to send a message. He knew his men would die, but their deaths had to mean something. Their purpose was to wage a war not on the battlefield, but in the minds of the Mongol commanders. As the Mongol fleet appeared on the horizon, Sukakuni and his 80 samurai calmly performed their death rituals. They sharpened their blades, said their final prayers, and prepared to embrace death with honor, according to their code of Bushido. This wasn't about surrender or survival. This was about creating a legend. When the Mongol landing craft hit the sand at Komoda Beach, they were met with a sight they couldn't comprehend. Instead of a defense in depth or a panicked retreat, they saw 80 warriors, clad in resplendent armor, charging directly into their ranks. The samurai fought with a ferocity born of desperation and purpose. They weren't trying to hold a line. They were trying to inflict as much chaos and terror as possible before being overwhelmed. They knew every Mongol they killed was a victory. Every moment they fought was a delay, and every drop of their blood was a seed of fear planted in the enemy's heart. The Mongols were professional soldiers, veterans of countless campaigns. They had superior numbers, and they had advanced technology, including gunpowder bombs and composite bows that outranged the samurai's traditional yumi. But they had never faced an enemy like this. The samurai fought as individuals, seeking out worthy opponents for duels, shouting their lineage before engaging. This was ritual combat, a stark contrast to the disciplined, coordinated formations of the Mongols. To the invaders, it looked like sheer madness. This wasn't a battle. It was a suicidal frenzy. Sukakuni's plan was multifaceted. By fighting on the open beach, he ensured the Mongols would see the full, terrifying display of samurai fanaticism. Before the battle, he had also ordered the island's villages to be burned. This wasn't just to deny the Mongols resources. It was another psychological blow. It showed that the people of Japan would rather destroy their own homes than let them fall into enemy hands. The message was simple: every inch of this land will cost you. In the brutal, bloody melee that lasted for an afternoon, all 80 samurai, including their commander Sukakuni, were killed. From a purely military perspective, it was a total defeat. The Mongols secured the beachhead, but the cost was shockingly high for what should have been a simple landing operation. The 80 samurai had inflicted over 500 casualties on the elite Mongol force, including killing 43 officers. Imagine the shock in the Mongol command tent. 80 men had taken out 5 times their own number, including a significant portion of their leadership, before falling. What kind of enemy was this? What would an army of thousands of such men be like? But the psychological warfare didn't end with their deaths. Before the final charge, Sukakuni had given one last, chilling order. He instructed his men that as they fell, their bodies should form an arrow, pointing inland. When the battle was over and the Mongols surveyed the carnage, they found the bodies of the 80 samurai arranged in a perfect arrowhead formation, aimed directly at the heart of Japan. The message was unmistakable and bone-chilling. This is just the beginning. Every step you take into Japan will be a step into hell. This single act bought Japan more than just fear. It bought them precious time. The shockingly stiff resistance caused the Mongol commanders to pause. They had expected a swift, easy conquest. Instead, they faced a delay of 18 critical hours on Tsushima, which turned into a 3-day halt to their entire invasion schedule as they reassessed the situation. This delay was a lifeline for the Japanese mainland. It gave the shogunate just enough time to scramble their forces and prepare the defenses at Hakata Bay, the Mongols' next target. Furthermore, Sukekuni had turned his suicidal last stand into a vital intelligence-gathering mission. In the heat of battle, his men had observed Mongol tactics, their weapons, their formations, and their weaknesses. Critically, they learned the effective range of the Mongol bows and the devastating, but disorienting, effect of their gunpowder bombs. This priceless information was relayed to the mainland by a survivor or a messenger before the battle's conclusion. When the main samurai armies later faced the Mongols, they knew what to expect. They weren't fighting blind. The story of the 80 heroes of Tsushima spread like wildfire across Japan. At the time, the samurai clans were fragmented and often fought amongst themselves. But this tale of ultimate sacrifice united them. It became a rallying cry. If 80 men could fight with such honor and spirit, then the thousands of samurai on the mainland had a duty to do the same. The sacrifice transformed apathy into resolve and disunity into a national defense effort. When the Mongols finally landed at Hakata Bay, they didn't face scattered resistance. They faced a prepared, motivated, and unified samurai army, inspired by the legend of Tsushima. The fighting at Hakata Bay was fierce. The samurai, armed with knowledge from Tsushima, adapted their tactics. They conducted daring night raids on the Mongol fleet, causing chaos and preventing the invaders from resting. The invasion stalled. The Mongols were stuck on the coast, unable to break the determined Japanese defense. And then, nature intervened. A massive storm, a seasonal typhoon the Japanese would later call the kamikaze, or divine wind, descended upon the bay. The Mongol fleet, which was not built for the open ocean, was annihilated. The storm destroyed what the samurai had delayed. Japan was saved. Historians rightly credit the kamikaze with saving Japan, but the storm would have been meaningless if the Mongol army was already deep inland, having conquered Hakata Bay weeks earlier. The divine wind only had a chance to work because the 80 samurai of Tsushima, through their calculated sacrifice, bought the time Japan needed. Sukekuni and his men turned a guaranteed tactical defeat into a stunning strategic victory. They lost the battle for the beach, but won the war for their country's soul, proving that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a sword or a bow, but an idea. Their legacy is a masterclass in asymmetric warfare, a testament to the fact that even in the face of impossible odds, courage and strategy can change the course of history. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of incredible battles and strategies. Let me know in the comments what you think about the sacrifice of the 80 samurai. See you next time.